Hi everyone, Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And this is our final week for July's book of the month, The Midsummer Bride by Katie Wilde.
I know, I'm so sad it's over.
I know, it's so good, y'all. We are telling you, you must listen. So, when we left off, Elina had cut the ribbon to unmarry Warrick, and he was now dead to her. She can't see him, she can't hear him, she can't even see anything that belongs to him, including his horse. Like, that's it. And so he follows her out of
Yeah,
town.
we almost didn't understand. I mean, I shouldn't say we, but I almost was like, "What's going on? Somebody died." Except that
Yeah.
there was an old man, and he kind of was like, "Oh, you dead to her?"
Like,
And
she
I'm
cut your
like,
ribbon, huh?
"Ugh."
Yeah. And you're like, oh shit. That priestess tried to tell them that their vows might have some weird magic because of those rings, and this is the consequence of that. So Elina ventures onward, always onward. That's her mantra, alone. She's still going home to try to defeat her uncle, of course. She thought he might follow, but no, she's still alone. It's
She
been
keeps
days.
looking back, and she is like, I. She had started to believe that her home was always going to be with him, but if he, but she's like, but if he meant something to me. If it's not what I thought, then he would be here
Where
trying to
is he?
explain to me, right? And where is he?
Yeah. And she thinks like her horse made a sound that was like the same sound that it had made every time Troll was like riding with them. But of course, she didn't see anything, so she just thought she was imagining it. She's rethinking
Everyone's
everything.
She's like, every once in a while, I almost think I can smell him. Like it's
Yeah.
just she
Yeah.
misses him so much. And
It's
you're
horrible.
like,
And meanwhile, while she's alone and thinking bad thoughts, she's rethinking everything and realizing how he really had wanted her dead in the beginning. Like there were times, especially like in the water when he came down there when the mud beast still had her, where he had this like look of almost glee on his face and she didn't understand it and she thought she misinterpreted it, but she's like, "Oh my God, no,
I
like
mean,
he
they
was
were
like really ready for you to
underwater. How
die."
do you know if you're seeing anything clearly? But yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, wait, that really did happen.
Yeah. And
And if
she's
you look back, if you
heartbroken all
read
over again.
back,
Yeah.
you read it, like, you see that she has, like, a glimmer of, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, does this guy hate me?"
But it
But then
doesn't make sense. And so she just kind of like discounts it. Yeah. So she makes camp that night and she's wrung out. She doesn't even remember making a fire, but there is one. So she's like, clearly I did. No, you didn't. And when
she's
she wakes up,
she had been, like, trying to remember all the things that work had taught her to
right.
do and whatever, but she's just so tired and depressed that she's
Yeah.
like, I can't
She
even think enough
can't
to
even.
eat, let alone
Yeah.
remember what I just did."
Um, and so when she wakes up in the morning, first thing, she thinks she feels him. And there's times when she thought she smelled him. And it's usually like right in between awake and asleep. And she thinks it's her dreams like playing tricks on her, basically. She never really thought about the dangers of riding alone on the road until she comes upon some leering men. But they seem scared of something that's
Well,
behind her.
she does, like, raise her, like, axe,
Axe.
and then they back off, and she's like, "Oh, that's scarier
But
than I
she's like,
thought."
none of them really looked at me. They were almost like looking behind me, which confused her. And of course, they just move on. And so she does too. Days
Mhm.
turn to weeks. In her dreams, Warwick keeps telling her to tie the ribbon that he's here with her. And it's heartbreaking every morning when, she wakes up alone. And then her period starts and she's sad all over again. She's like, I didn't even
She
realize that I wanted
starts
that,
weeping.
but I clearly did because it's like the final straw. Like she just like loses her shit. And then she takes the axe and she just starts like hitting it like crazy against this tree until she's like totally spent. And as she's sitting there,
So tired, she can't even think straight.
she sees a red ribbon. And now we're back in Warwick's POV finally, and he is heartbroken watching her suffer like this. And when he puts the ribbon out in front of her, he's just like begging her to see it. And she
Just
does see it, and he's thrilled at first. And he's like begging her to tie it. And of course, she
tired.
can't hear him. And she calls herself foolish and says that there's no magic, there never was. No one's ever really loved her. They've always just needed something from her or like turned around and betrayed her.
Well, and that
And
she, like, convinced herself that if she believed it strongly enough that it would happen, and
yeah,
instead she just opened the way
yeah,
to be hurt more,
more.
and so she can't, and she takes that ribbon and throws it in the fire.
throws it in the fire, and he is distraught. He tries to pull it out, but he can't.
I
He
was
burns his
distraught.
hand. He burns his hand.
I'm like, this was the key to fixing the problem.
It is like a nightmare. I'm tearing up just thinking about it now. So that night, she cries herself to sleep, and he lays beside her. And
Cries himself
again,
to sleep
that
too.
night, in between awake and asleep, she seems to kind of feel him sometimes, and she tells him she loves him. And he's thinking like, if she still feels that way about me even after all this, then like I have to keep trying. Like there's hope, right? So when they get to the glass mountains, his chest starts to glow like crazy. He's been there before, so he knew to expect that.
And
There's a lot of ghosts there.
this place is like super haunted. Like it's not even in the other, sorry, I've got like my hair is on my face. Um as in other times when he has met up with ghosts, it's like something happened
Right.
where the person
Like
was
they
robbed and
died
they
there,
stayed in that same
or
place where they died.
or they lived there and they didn't want to leave or whatever. Like it has something to do with them personally,
But this place feel is more like it draws ghosts to it.
especially like
So
bad ones,
there are a lot,
very bad ones.
and they
Well,
are
and he kind of talks about when he came before with Bannon, it was almost like oh, I'll go save the ghosts, you know what I mean? But he's like he started to realize that a lot of the ghosts there are horrible. They deserve what they're getting basically. He doesn't want to help them anyway. And also a lot of them, there's no way to really help them because it's been generations since whatever they did and there's no way to make it right anymore.
yeah,
Um and so the obsidian on the mountains acts like mirrors. And
it's
all
like
of a
a
sudden,
reflective
she can
surface.
see some ghosts herself, which is the first time she's been able to without directly touching him. Um, Plus, she can see the light from his glyph, which she can't understand like where it's coming from. She can see the light, but like she can't see him, and it's very confusing. There's no moon. It's like she doesn't know what she's seeing. And then she hears his voice. It's like an echo off of the wall and she freaks out because she thinks that means he's dead.
Dead. Yeah.
And he comes close. So she like walks up to the wall to try to like see him. And he comes closer and kind of surrounds her so that she can like see him in the reflection and tells her about the ribbon and that they are dead to each other now. And he tells her about, she's crying and she's like, I was so stupid. Like you didn't love me when you first saw my face. And he's like, yes, I did. Like when I
You're like, I didn't
actually
first see your
saw
face in the
your
jail
face.
because you were
And
covered in that
he
stuff.
tells her, he's like, when I saw your face, it wasn't until under the water. That's when I gave you my breath and my heart at the same time. Like that was it for me. And I've loved you since then, and I've been with you this whole time. Like,
And
and
she's kind of like, I really should have waited for an explanation from you. Ugh.
yeah.
But
Well, and they
here it is.
both apologize to each other, and they're both basically just like crying together. And it's a beautiful moment because she does say, like, I should have waited. And he's like, why? Like, everybody else in your life has done this to you, and none of them had a good excuse. Like, why would mine be any different? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're just going off what you've already had done to you and
Well,
what
and
you
also he's like, I should have told you this stuff before. And
before.
like that I shouldn't have waited for some other person, like for some drunk
Yeah.
guy to say it. And
Um, it's heartbreaking. They're just
it's
like crying
hard,
together,
but they're also
but it's
kind of like,
beautiful.
well, at least we know we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. And so she takes the axe to the wall and gets like a hand-sized piece of the obsidian and like rubs it so it's not sharp. And she's going to take it with her so she can still see him the rest of the trip. And so more weeks pass, but much less lonely this time. Even though they still can't physically touch. And as they're passing through the final valley before Aileron, this like demon thing like uncoils from its roost.
And this is a place that her mom took her to before.
Mhm.
It was not there were always people there.
Mhm.
You could see the
'Cause there's like gems.
stars. Like, she said it looked like you could see the stars because of all the gems that were there, and her
Yeah.
family had never, like, stopped people from going there because they
Yeah.
were like, "The wealth that we have, like, is
Yeah.
should that's not what's important, and we should
Well, and
share
she
it."
explains too that like there's so many gems, they're basically worthless now. Like they're not good as currency in their like village because everybody has them, so it doesn't matter. It's only trading with outside villages and stuff that they've been like useful to them as money, basically. And
So,
so they
but
just never.
she is, like, her first thought is, "Oh, my uncle is hoarding
Right.
the wealth,"
Yeah.
because her family never did. Like her
Her mom
parents
never did that.
always shared with every like I mean everyone was free to
Yeah.
come. And so
Mhm.
when she gets there and sees that no one's there, she's like, "Oh no, he
Yeah.
has started hoarding."
Yeah.
However, then that thing comes out and it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
She's
maybe
like,
there's other
"Oh, this
reasons."
is why." Yeah. So, and if you've read other books in this series, especially like book 1, The Midwinter Mail Order Bride, you kind of know these monstrous things are a product of what they call scaling, which is like people who misuse magic too much. Like magic always has a price basically. So like if you're using it, the effects of it are going somewhere into the ether basically and is creating these like monstrous creatures outside of their village.
Yeah, and this book does explain it. It doesn't
Yeah.
explain it in detail, but it does say
Yeah.
like, "Oh, there are other places in this world that have
Right.
a bigger problem with this,
Yeah.
but I know what this is." Like
Yeah.
it's not a new concept.
And so they start to fight it, and she does manage to cut off one of its heads with the axe, but then Warwick says to it, "You're mine," and it
And it
disappears from her
disappears.
sight. And she's like, "Oh shit."
She
And so
knows that he
yes.
must have done something.
Yeah. So he kills it just as Sergeant Irethyll shows up. The sergeant explains his vow to keep her safe, and she's like, "No." Like, she's not having it at all. She's like, "This your honor and this, like, vow that you made to your mother means that I have never been your queen because you've never actually been loyal to me or what I needed or what I wanted. Like, and I no longer trust you. Like, you can't do anything for me now."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and she is very like, "So you were keeping me safe, were you?" And she very much questions like
yeah,
his and he
his
has to admit that
methods.
he has to admit that he was wrong, and
Yeah,
that he wanted to like he had planned to and had hoped to be able to speak with her mother through Warwick and like maybe take
right.
back that vow or do, and she's just kind of like, you know what though,
Late.
like
Yeah.
mm-mm.
And so then it starts to rain and she freaks out because this valley flash floods and she's like, "Shit, we got to go." So they ride off as fast as they can. And then this other monster pops up out of the river and Irethyll stops to fight it while Warwick and Elina keep going to get to like higher ground. There's like a game trail, if it can be called that. It's like a skinny little trail like up
Yeah.
the mountain basically. And at one
And
point they jump off the horses and like pat the horses ahead um, and she sees Irethyll and the monster, like, fall into the river, and, they can't do anything about it. Um, and then the small trail they're on starts to wash away, and she drops the obsidian shard at one point, she can't see him, and then the trail, like, shears off behind her, and she freaks out because Warwick was behind her. Um, and so I wrote down this quote because it was amazing too. She starts screaming like to the world, to the universe, whatever. She's
yeah,
like, "You cannot take him from me. He's mine. Mine. My husband, my heart, my life. Everything he is mine. Everything I am is his. He is mine." And then she
and then
hears
she sees
Troll well, she sees Troll. She hears Troll
yeah,
snicker, and she sees him, and so she's, like, looking around frantically for Warwick, and then she sees him. He's, like, clinging to the sheared off edge of the cliff, and so he, like, jumps up, and he grabs her, and she says, "I love you," and they start making out, and then they fuck it out right there on the side of the cliff, and it's hot.
good thing
And
they
also
don't fall into the flood, but
yeah, amazing. And then he notices after that she has a ward on her hip like his that's glowing. And he thinks that when she claimed all of him, that included his gift. Now she is likely to be able to see ghosts as well, and also is protected from spells like he is, which means she's got one more piece of defense against her uncle. And she says, "Great, let's go kill my uncle." And so they go. And when they get to Aileron, there's so many ghosts. Both he and Elina are like glowing gold. Like the radiant queen is like truly the description of her. She is like glowing.
which
And
is
so
kind of cool because before it was all that like it took a lot to get her looking
mhm,
radiant, even though she looked like she was melting.
Right.
But now because of how she said everything he is
Mhm.
mine and I am his, then she took on some of his, like, qualities,
His
I guess,
magical
and
abilities.
that was one of the things.
Yeah,
So when she starts walking in, like, she doesn't have any of her trappings, and she does not have to introduce herself, like, every person knows who she
everybody
is.
knows. Yeah.
The soldiers, like the guards, any people, they're all like, "Oh, my
Yeah. Well,
queen."
so the ghosts start
They
following her first, and then as she's getting into the city, all these soldiers come up and see her, and then they start following her too. And,
But no one is like, it's interesting, and she makes the point that, like, wow, nobody cares that, like,
I'm
the
clearly here to kill
king
my
or
uncle.
whatever, like, they're the
Yeah.
and what?
That I'm clearly here to kill my uncle.
Oh, yeah, they're like, "Oh, awesome, you
Yeah.
came. Come on
Yeah.
in." And
Yeah.
so it's kind of funny because
It
this
is.
guy, like, I don't know what he's done to, like, get power or retain it,
Yeah.
but nobody is on his side on
No,
his side.
nobody. So when they arrive in the like town square, basically, her uncle is in the full king's face, which makes her literally laugh out loud. And she's like, "Do you wear this every day, or did you just like hurry and do it for my benefit?" Like, it's either way hilarious, right?
Yeah, and here she is, like, glowing, and he is over
Yeah.
there trying to
And
be the
so he starts throwing these like spelled arrows at them. And of course, they have shield. While he's like talking shit. And then he uses magic to start to pull their axes away from them. And so Work lets his go right away. And it, of course, sails past the guy and like breaks itself against the wall. She's trying to fight, and the chain is still like wrapped around her wrist. And he's like, "You're strong enough to let it go. Like, you got to trust that this is what's supposed to happen." And so she lets it go. The axe goes flying by her uncle, and it says something like he's just starting to smirk, and
when
the
the chain
chain wraps around his neck, and you're like, "Yes." And so as he's trying to like grab the chain, Warwick runs up and tackles him and like carves a rune into his body that makes it so that he can't spellcast anymore. It's basically the same
it
rune
means
that he has.
yeah,
And
it
he
means
has.
that, like, magic can't affect him, but he also cannot use
Cannot
magic.
produce it via
So,
spells. Yeah. And so Warwick kind of, jerks him up, and Elina tells Warwick to show Soren what he's done. And so he touches him and he sees all the ghosts, including her mother,
her mother, yeah.
and then Warwick snaps his neck. And a lot of the ghosts disappear when he
He
dies.
is, like, real wimpy, that guy, like,
Oh
as
yeah.
far as,
He's
like,
like
his
begging and
response to anything, like, as soon as
mhm.
it's a classic bully, right? Like,
Of course. Yeah.
when things are in his favor, he can use the spells,
Yeah.
he's, like, big tough guy, but the
Uh-huh.
second that the tide turns, he is
A sniveling coward
begging,
begging for his
pleading,
life.
yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the ghosts disappear when he dies, including her mom. And he had asked her right before, like, "Do you want to say anything to her?" And she's like, not really. Like, I don't know what to
Like,
say to
what
her.
am I supposed to say
Yeah.
when yeah, she made her choices.
Right.
I disagree with a whole lot of them, but
Right.
what am I gonna say?
Yeah. So a lot of the ghosts disappear, including her mom, but dozens remain. And that's a problem for the future. Clearly, there's people still living who were either doing his bidding for him or using cover of his evil to do their own evil, and they're gonna have to sort that out, as
Yeah.
time goes on. But for now, they celebrate with their people, and it's great. And so then we get to the epilogue, which is 3 years later. She is pregnant and horny AF, and he has been gone for 3 days fighting one of those beasts in the valley. And so just starts getting right to it, but it's very funny and sweet, and he's, like, pretending like he's asleep, and it's hilarious.
Uh-huh. It's really
And so
sweet.
afterward, she mentions that her father visited briefly and dropped off his other daughter,
Yeah.
Alina's half-sister, because she wants to learn to be a queen.
And I don't know if anybody like, if you all remember from the very
Yeah,
first, recap that we did, but when her mother was, like, deposed, I guess, the
mhm,
dad returned to his kingdom
right,
and just never really
and just didn't
they
do
thought
anything.
they could go, like, maybe seek asylum or refuge at his and he was very like, "I don't wanna have to anything to
Very
do with
squirrely.
this.
Yeah,
That's real messy, I don't wanna have to deal with it," and so she ended up, like, wandering
yeah,
because her father would not help her, and so
yeah.
not a great relationship,
No, and she
but
doesn't really want anything to do with him, but she's willing to help his
like
daughter,
her
which is
half
her sister.
sister. Yeah.
And she said something like, "I don't know that he'll like the type of queen I teach her to be, but, like, that's a problem. That's his problem," basically.
Yeah.
And Elina hopes that she will go and, like, usurp their dad and be a much better ruler than he clearly is.
The
Um,
sister seems like she could be a cool person.
well, and she says, she's like, "I don't, obviously I don't trust her yet. Dara will tend to her for now, and we'll see," basically,
Yeah.
like, but, they also discuss, her mom and Sergeant Irethyll and their past and how she's sort of forever conflicted over her feelings for them versus, like, them and how they cared for her versus the things that they did that affected other people, and, she doesn't really know how to feel about either of them, basically. Um, but her heart is big, but it's strong now too, which it wasn't really before all this happened, I guess. And another one of the queens in the like realm wrote to them about training soldiers because they think that all this magic and the scaling and the monsters and all that is sort of like a prelude of like bad things to come, and they want to make sure that they're ready. And so yeah, it's just a lovely little bit of like pillow talk closure, and it's sweet and sexy and awesome, just like everything else about this book.
Yeah, it did make me want more books, which I guess
Yeah.
sneaky Katie Wilde might have
Yes.
been her plan all along. But I
Yes.
definitely would love to see more in this
For
world.
sure. Well, and I'm hoping that that's sort of setting up a book for her sister when she grows up, which will be fun because hopefully we'll see them as side characters. Also, there is already a novella about Bannon, Warwick's best friend who accidentally spilled the beans in the worst way possible. And his story is great too, if anybody wants to follow up with that. But ultimately, I would just say read this series, read this book. Like, you will not be sorry.
No, it's great.
Um,
And sorry. Katie Wilde does have a really good way of being able to, because they're very standalone books, even though she mentions things from other
yeah.
books in the series.
Hmm.
But she has a great way of like, it's a short story. There's a lot. She packs a lot in a small space, but
Yeah, it's
also
like
like it,
229 pages total, and I think the first book is similar to that, and the others are even shorter. They're more like novellas.
yeah,
Yeah,
and like you don't feel lost in the world
no,
at all. Like I definitely did not, and but it doesn't. Um, but she doesn't like
dig
really
too deep either.
expand very much on things either. So
Yeah. Oh, perfection. So we hope you loved it too. We hope you go on loving everything by Katie Wilde as we do. And next week we will be here with Jen Prokop from the Fated Mates podcast to talk about why she loves this book. And it was really fun.
gonna be a love fest. Don't
Yes.
miss it.
Thank you. See you guys next week.
Bye.